Hi. Today's topic is Cephalotaxus. Um, where I live, I'm in Zone 9B in Central West Florida, and I would love to have bonsai of the Taxus variety, but this far south they don't make it. Each year you'd have it, it'd get weaker until eventually it would die. Um, So I found this variety. This is called a Cephalotaxus, Cephalotaxus. So you just add the cephalo to the taxus name, and it's actually a variety that looks very similar to the northern taxus, similar growth habit, but actually can be grown down to zone 10. So this is great for Floridians that want a Taxus bonsai. I bought it at a Lowe's, I forget, 1 to 2 years ago. Came as somewhat of a bush, a little bit bigger and bushy, and I pruned it down to nothing, and then it grew back, and I cut it one more time, and if you look inside, you can see it really buds back nice. And even on old wood, which I've picked it off the trunk a number of times because it keeps wanting to bud everywhere. So I've cleaned it of extra buds at various times during that short period of time. So it buds well. And I think you're looking at the front of the trunk. Hope you can see that okay. So what I want to do today is take the wire off, and because it budded back closer, I want to prune it. Now this time of year, it's into August, early to mid-August. You're in the hottest time of the year. There's kind of a mild secondary dormancy that some trees go through. Most of my stuff's still growing, but it does grow a little. All of a sudden, it'll just, as it was growing really fast, it starts to slow down a little bit. And usually in about a month from now, or beginning of September, is usually when I go through all my materials, which, there's an auction I'm getting ready for in 2 weeks, where I'm going to be auctioning off some of my material. But especially my big stuff that's getting too big for me. But after that, my plan is to go through my yard and do a good pruning of almost everything. Because usually in the fall here, because it stays warm for a pretty long time, we get a nice long few months of continuous growth. So, there's plenty of time to grow back. Now, if I was way farther north, I might not do that. Everything might just be letting it stay a little strong. Another 2 months, it'll be getting too cold. So I would probably not prune this back if it was a regular taxus and I was farther, up north, Pennsylvania or farther north or something like that. But down here, maybe Georgia, Tennessee, it's probably still, end of summer pruning is probably still a good idea, at least on some of your material. Your material needs to be healthy, strong, and know the variety well enough to know it can tolerate that. And what I've already seen with this tree, it's vigorous, buds well, and I know if I prune it back in the next few months, it'll bounce back and grow. And then my hope is maybe in the late winter, early spring, I might even go ahead and put this in a bonsai pot. If it's not growing super strong and like that, I probably won't repot it and I'll leave it go another year. We'll let the tree tell me what to do. So I'm going to go ahead, start taking the wire off. Now I want to, some of this wire is very thin, super thin wire. Sometimes I'll unwind it and reuse it. When it's a little thicker, I cut at each turn with this because I've learned, when you try to always save all your wire, if it's thicker wire, a lot of times you end up breaking an important branch or something you liked. At this stage, maybe it won't be that important because it'll bud back so well. Even if I did that, it'll regrow something and, I'll fill in that spot that's missing. But I'd rather not. I'd rather do it the right way. So I learned, always cut each turn of the wires on the thicker wire. If it's super thin wire and you can see clearly what you're doing and your hands can do it, and you're not, you can unwind, and especially aluminum wire when it's thin, very easy there. You can reuse it, even though often the masters tell you never to reuse wire. or you get it re-annealed or whatever. But with the thin aluminum, I reuse it all the time. You know, I've always done bonsai on the cheap. I use stuff that plants that people throw out or in the back of a nursery where they're ready to get rid of it, and I get it cheap. I dig it out of my yard to get tired of as a landscape tree or shrub, and I make a bonsai out of it, get yelled at by my wife, you know, whatever. So I'm going to start taking this wire off. I was looking at analytics on my YouTube channel, and I figured out it's my viewership is 97% male, which just made me wonder. I mean, in our clubs and stuff, there's plenty of women that are into bonsai, but maybe that's not the case, you know, out there in YouTube viewership. So, you know, if in the comments, if you want to give me any pointers, what might attract more women to watch this channel. You know, I'm sure the men don't want to see me shirtless. I don't think the women will either right now, but I did start going to the gym, so maybe when I'm more buff, I can make a special video for them. I don't, yeah. But with bonsai, maybe is it the styling considerations? If I do more feminine styles, will that attract more women, or is it just a matter of me needing to make more pristine videos? I have invested in a green screen, so whatever, I haven't figured out while I'm making this video what my background is, but I have a green screen behind me at the time of making the video, and I might use my own artwork or something. I'm going to make or use a free background somewhere in an image. So this is I just unboxed it today, my cheap green screen kit and an app on the phone. It was like $30. Came with a stand and clips and then a big green cloth, and a bag to carry it in. So we'll see. It's kind of fun to play with that. So we'll see what I come up with for this video. I'm going to continue on wiring. It's pretty thin. I could unwind a lot of this, but I have some of it doubled up, and it's just safer to just go ahead and clip it. You know, little short sections each turn, you know, so I don't risk breaking. That's why you like this kind of a wire cutter where it's flush on the end. Now I've used it on something I should have, and I've worn out the middle, but I can still use the end here to cut the wire. One of these days I'll buy a new set of tools. These are actually getting a few years old, but they still do the job, still holding up. And they weren't the very expensive stainless steel tools either. If you keep them oiled a little bit and clean them periodically, they do last for a while. And I'd rather have that set a few years than buy a new set. And I hear the stainless steel are really good, but I also had some reports that they don't seem to hold the edge as well or something. I'm not sure about that. If somebody wants to comment on whether that's true or not, feel free. Eventually, if I get more popular and stuff and start getting people wanting to advertise, I can find out like the tools that I think are the best or like for the price. I can get them to advertise on the channel and do stuff like that. But for now, I'm far from that. I'm a newbie when it comes to YouTube. So I'm just trying to provide information, especially for beginners mostly, but some of my stuff goes beyond the beginner. So, I hope it's not just beginners that watch this stuff. Maybe to look at something a little different. Or even species-wise, you can be a well-known, experienced bonsai person, but not used to a certain species, and I might cover that species, like the Cephalotaxus. You might never even have heard of it, and so this will give you something to think for, especially if you're south like me, like in Florida, and you want to grow this type of a tree. Something that reminds you of where you lived up north years ago. I know growing up in Pennsylvania, we had big Taxus varieties of big shrubs in our yard, and Actually, when I first started bonsai 35 years ago, whatever, I remember digging one up, and of course I killed it because I was going by a library book which wasn't very good. You know, they didn't discuss soil particle size. They didn't when they said a third moss, a third clay, and a third, you know, bark, they didn't explain the details of that. And so I was using clay, like regular clay dug up from the yard, and moss, like everything wrong. And I was growing my trees in, you know, in slop, wondering why I ended up with root rot and stuff. So, you know, so you got to be careful with library books that you understand what the details are. The best way to learn is always, you know, a bonsai club, especially if you have very experienced masters in the club. That's even better. Or, you know, watch my videos and watch, if you go to my playlist, I have a lot of the Ryan Neal videos on there. He's awesome because he really explains in detail the whys. It's not just like, oh, this time of year, you know, do this to the needles of a pine. It's why and what do you look for. And so if you understand the why, you can adapt it to your area, where if you're farther south, farther north, you can adapt by, teaches you to look at the tree and let the tree tell you when it's time to do something. Now, I unwound this wire, but I don't want to risk breaking a branch. So it doesn't want to, I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces so I can get it off easier. Okay. I had someone a while back, not too long ago, comment about the, I don't know if they'd watched the multiple videos or just watched the one where I went bonsai hunting in a nursery, saying my azalea it was just a bush, you know, not a bonsai. And it's like, of course, you know, you don't, the idea of instant bonsai, yes, you take a juniper, often you can make it look like something right away, but really you shouldn't take that approach of you get something to make an instant bonsai. It's a process, it takes time. And if you watched follow-up videos of that hunting nursery, I have my first hard prune of the azalea, cut back what I did first, and I have 2 follow-ups after that, and it shows you the progression, and it's actually starting to look good. And what I'm going to do, you know, I'll do another, when I go to do the next thing on that tree, which will probably be when I repot it in the late winter, or at like end of January or beginning of February, I'll make another video. And you're going to see, it might be ready for, you know, it's in a large nursery container. I'll cut the roots back pretty good and get it into bonsai soil, but it'll probably be in a pot like this versus a nursery pot. And then the following year or 2 is when it would go into the bonsai pot. So hopefully that person watched. After that, I responded to him. Hopefully he watched some of the other videos and understood. Yes, it was a bush, and it was, you know, he said pre-bonsai maybe. Okay, that's fine, but that's how it is. That's the way it works. It's not instant for the most part. Yes, you know, when you get into this hobby, you end up growing more and more varieties, more and more trees, and you have certain ones that, yeah, right away you like, because right away you can make them look pretty special, especially, like I said, certain junipers. You can wire them up, and they'll make them look like something really nice right off the bat. Of course, it'll take years and years to make them really good, you know, to get them show ready and things like that. See how long and leggy these are? And these have been all cut back not that long ago. So this is a very vigorous grower. So I'm not worried at all about pruning it back right now. And I'll, of course, all my projects that you see videos of, I will, in the future, I will always go back and do follow-up so you can see all my projects and what happens, what doesn't work, what does work. You know, I did a video on air layering, and the one air layered well in my brush cherry, but the pine, you know, when I checked underneath the foil, still, you know, not really root. It's callousing up. And I'm going to check that after the auction again. If I don't see any roots starting at that time, I'm going to recut where the callus is, so I'll have hormones built up, and then put some fresh sphagnum moss on there, damp sphagnum moss and more foil, and then wait to check it in the spring. And I've done that before with pines. Sometimes it takes doing that second cut to get them air layered. Especially, some pines are easier than others. I'm talking spruce pine, and that seems to air layer easier than other pines I've attempted it on. And it's a tree growing in my yard that has plenty of branches. So if somehow it doesn't take, it's not that big a deal. I already have a little grouping or mini forest of spruce pine that's from some that were I grew from seed for years, and then a couple that were air layers. I'm going to turn the tree around here so I can get it there. Just being real careful, making sure I don't lose any branching. Might make more sense to actually prune it back some first. It might be easier to get the wire off. All right, living wire. So yeah, let me do a little light pruning on some of this leggy stuff. Stuff like that, stuff that's real long. I'll cut it back. If I see a little bud I can cut to, it's even better. That won't always be the case, but I have cut before on these branches. I've cut just in the middle of them, and then they've gotten buds a little back from that. I don't know if that you can always count on that. It's better to cut back to where there's like something like this. You cut back to a bud that's in there would be the best. Like here, there's a little bud right there, so I can cut, past that. Like here, you can see there's more new growth down here. Cut that there. But like this branch, I don't see any buds along here. So I'll probably just prune like the tip or something off. When I turn it and put it in front of me, I'll evaluate for that. Things that are straight up and down. I've got some branches that are growing straight up from the pad. I'm going to cut them off even to where it's slightly woody. Let's see. And I'm not going to get aggressive at this point until I get the wire off and look at it again. I might end up getting more aggressive. We'll see. Anybody has ideas about great backgrounds for doing bonsai, let me know. Because I might be doing more videos with the green screen behind me. Okay. Let's see. Tip off. Oh, pulled a bud off. I didn't want to. Gotta be careful. And there's spots where I see 3 coming off. There I gotta make a choice. Take it down to 2, especially when it's right off of the trunk. You don't want too many in one spot. After I get the wire off, I'll probably cut more off. I just see. I haven't quite decided yet. Yep. So here's an example. This is a third branch coming off where I already have two. Got this branch and this branch all coming off the same branch from the trunk, so I don't need that third one up at the base of it. You know, and if there's a spot that's empty, I could always put some wire back on and move it over a little bit. But this is early in the process with this tree, so I don't have to get it perfect right now. Take my time with it. One of my learning experiences over the years, especially when I started bonsai, when you try to rush stuff too much, try to do the quick instant bonsai with everything, you end up losing more trees. So just be patient, and the tree will really appreciate it. Get back to taking more wire off. So, but I appreciate, even if it's a little negative, I appreciate people who take the time to leave comments. Like I said, I am a newbie. I want to make these videos I'm making for you guys and gals. If any of you know women, females that are into bonsai, even children, you know, direct them to my channel. I would love to see, you know, more females. I'd like to, you know, help get everybody that could possibly be interested in this hobby. So you're going to see bits. I keep having to fix the camera because the edge of my green screen's blowing. So you don't mess up the background. But I might be able to adjust that. I don't have great video editing stuff, but we'll see. Maybe my app will let me edit that. We'll see. All right, back to the wire. Some of it's on fresh new growth, and I'd rather try to unwire it and cut all of that. Like I said, this is very thin wire and moves easily. If it was any thicker, definitely would cut each piece. But I reuse this really thin wire all the time. That's, you know, it's a number 1 or 2. I don't know if that's, what is that, millimeters? I'm not sure. I can't really see where it goes. Okay. All right. Let's see. Still some more wire in there. Getting there. It's another thing. I used to be lazy when it came to wiring. Yes. You know, some people get annoyed like, oh, you don't have to wire everything. A lot of people do bonsai, make beautiful bonsai entirely with clip and grow. But it's a longer process. I really have been able to improve my trees a lot with being willing to go through the entire tree and wire almost everything at times. But really, once you wire the primary branches and the main secondaries and they stay in position, that would be a good time to, you don't need to keep wiring. You know, you can do from that point, do clip and grow, do a combination of wire and clip and grow. And clip and grow, you'd look at each bud and the direction it goes and cut to the ones that go the way you want them to go. Cut back, and, you know, always to 2s. You know, 2, then it's 4, then it's 8, you know. I usually work outside. Today I'm inside. My wife volunteers at the Straz, which is a playhouse and theater. She's away. She can't make any comments. But to be honest, she'd probably be okay as long as I'm being clean, and she knows I'm playing around with my new green screen. It's been raining and stuff outside some, and a little breezy. I don't want to have issues with the green screen while I'm trying to make the video. I recently retired from being a podiatrist, and my wife works part-time. She's looking for full-time work now, but so now it's kind of weird, we're both home all day together. But I gotta say, it's nice. We get along better than I think most people would have ever thought we would. Because I married my opposite, but we love each other so much, and life is good. We enjoy each other's company. I'm a little more of an introvert than she wishes I was a little more social, and I wish she was a little more, like, she's not into bonsai. I wish she was, but there's plenty of stuff we like to, we share interest in, and we just enjoy each other's company, even if we don't do anything, just hanging out together. All right, let's see. But as I was saying, once I got where I kind of learned to not be lazy and actually got where I enjoyed wiring, because you wire everything and get everything placed, wow, the tree can pop, you can make it look a lot better right away. Of course, you got to unwire it all, but eventually you get where you like it. In the beginning, sometimes you try to, you just don't want to do all that. Seems like too much work, but you get eventually where, especially once you see the results you can get faster, and how much nicer you can get your tree, you end up falling in love with wiring. But like I said, you don't always have to wire. You can do clip and grow. You could probably get more of a natural feel from your tree with clip and grow if you do it all clip and grow. But I really condone the combination. Using both. Initially, initially wiring everything, getting it really placed well, but then a lot of your later growth, do it by pruning, clip and grow. And then when something just won't cooperate that way, wire that one branch, or wire, just do little minimal wiring here and there to get the effect you want. It is an art, so there's a certain amount of freedom with the approach you want to take, artistically, as long as you don't, you can't take too much liberty in terms of horticulture, but in the art sense, as long as you stay within the confines of keeping the tree healthy with what you do to it, there's no, there's what they say, there's rules, but once you know the basics, you get to a point where you know enough where you can break some of those rules. The rules are only there for you to get a basic understanding, the beginning of basic styles and basic, understanding what you do to get it treated to look a certain way. But once you know it well enough, the horticulture and all the basic techniques, you don't have to follow rules, And even when it comes to horticulture, to some degree, you get to learn your trees. So in your microclimate and your particular type of tree variety, you might get away with something that somebody else in your club that has a different microenvironment that doesn't have luck with that same material. They think you know the same things, but for some reason you do well and they don't. And you'll come across that a lot if you join a club. You'll find that people, I always kill junipers, or that's the one thing I can keep alive, and they're not. You might live, 20 minutes from each other. But the microclimates could be very different. One could be right along the sea. Another one could be in an area where they have a lot of shade in their yard. Another one that's full sun. My yard's mostly full sun. So I get a little leaf burn on my maples and stuff. But, certain varieties are more tolerating that than other maples. So, you know, I'm enjoying my maples. I'm enjoying working with Freeman maples. Seem to do really well in my full sun in this 9B zone, and Florida red maples do well. They get a little bit of leaf burn, but I found one little area in my yard that's got some shade right now, and that's where I have them. So, you know, too many people around me cutting the big trees down. You know, I don't know. I used to have a bunch of pine trees all around my house. Now I just have my spruce pine that I'm growing. The other ones were all cut down. I've talked to people, they're like, oh, I hate pine trees. I'm like, how can you hate a pine tree? I love pine trees. But everybody's different. There's other types of trees they like, you know. They'll like something that flowers, or, you know, people appreciate different things. But I like all kinds of trees. All right. Let's see, am I almost done? I see a little piece here, and I think that might be it. So I'm almost done with the wire. I'll do a little more pruning, show you what I got. And then I'll let it, I won't prune this again, like even if it gets where it grows kind of long or bushy, I'll just leave it alone until late winter. And that's when I'll come and work on it again, do any pruning I'm going to do, and if it's looking really strong and healthy, I might repot it at that time. Like I'm saying, probably end of January for this tree. See how it is, I might do this the middle of January or late. Actually, because it's a more southern variety, I might treat it just like I would an azalea and do it like the very end of January, like the beginning of February. Usually, if you look up the last frost date for my area, it's like the middle of February, but it's been years since I've had a single frost here in my microclimate. You know, people have gotten a frost 10 minutes from me when I haven't. I'm across the street from the water, from the sea. My microclimate, and not having the shades and and the shady trees and stuff, having the full sun, I haven't had a frost here in years. So, I could probably, I'm probably doing things a little earlier than some of my friends do it in the air from the Bonsai Club. But it takes years to learn all that. Just take your time. If you're just starting out, or you haven't really started yet, and you want to figure out what to get, stuff that tends to tolerate a little bit of abuse, if you want, especially like if you like having something indoors a lot, like get a dwarf jade, because it's a succulent. You just make sure it's in very like cactus soil or bonsai soil, something very porous. So you don't, because the tendency would be to overwater that, where a lot of times people underwater. A succulent, you can water it once a week and it'll be okay. Even though I have ones in the yard that are in bonsai soil that get watered almost every day when I water the rest of my trees. But I don't soak them down and hold the water. Because usually when you water really well, make sure the entire soil mass gets moisture. But I don't do that to the same degree with the succulents. All right. Trying to see where that wire goes to. I'm glad I'm getting that. I'm just starting to dig into the wood a little bit. All right. I think this is the last piece of wire. So you're probably glad about that. You get tired of watching some old guy wiring and unwiring for a long time. So anything you can do to, like my channel, subscribe, or recommend it to other people. I would like this to grow. I'm doing multiple things now that I'm retired from podiatrist. We still need to make some money, and I'm thinking, I'm started publishing children's books. I'm going to work on some other types of books and artwork, and publish that on Amazon, and then I'm going to see about digital products on Etsy. I'm looking at different things, different ways to make a little bit of side money. I don't believe, you watch these videos, it's not like I plan on getting rich from it, but it would be nice to I can do a number of things and make an extra 1,000 or 2,000 a month, and, someday. It'll take a while. I've learned, I was a plasterer, I was an engineer, and then I was a podiatrist. Like, it takes for my, 10 years to be like a pro, like really good at something in general. So, I've started doing this art stuff, on digital, a little over a year ago. So, I'm 57 now, so I'm thinking, probably by the time of when my real retirement would be, 67, I'll be very good at it, and making some money. Even though I'm hoping like people, some people really like the children's books I'm doing. So, especially if because the couple of children's books I have, at least the first two so far, the Pop Pop and Gigi. Oh, not that one. Pop Pop and Gigi go to Gigi and Nora go to the Audreyverse is one I really did for my family. But you might appreciate that. It has to do with family differences, but it doesn't have anything to do with bonsai. But the first two are, Pop Pop and Katie's Little Tree, and then the second one, the little tree goes to a show. They have to do with bonsai. So if you're introducing, you have little children, 3, 4 years old, and you want to give them the idea of bonsai, because you like doing bonsai, and you hope they grow up and they like it too, you can start introducing it to them now, at a very early age. I've tried to get, later on you try, and like, they're teenagers or they're older, they're like, yeah, they got other things going on. Really, nobody else in my family's gotten into the bonsai. I think that's it. Yeah, I got one growing straight up here. Get that off there. All right, so I got the wire off. Let me show you my front. I think I'm looking at it. Yeah. I've got a little piece of wire here to show my front. He's still kind of leggy. Let me see if there's any more I want to prune to. And deep inside, I have lots of tight growth. I'm half tempted to cut way back, but when you do real hard pruning, it really is better to do like, late winter, early spring. Like here, late winter, but farther north would be springtime. When you want to get past the danger of frost, when you do those kind, the potting and the heavy pruning, like you want to get past frost. Like deciduous trees, when you do the hard pruning, you wait till buds on the tree just start to swell, so it's starting to become active. That's the best time. Evergreens, you don't necessarily see that as clearly, but same idea. All right, let's see. What else can I prune here? Gonna go in here and prune. I know it can take it. Anything straight up and down. And another thing, you guys want a certain thing topic covered with bonsai, or even plants. It doesn't always have to be bonsai. It could be propagation, because I've done a number of propagating different ways. For a while, I had my yard registered as a nursery, and using intermittent mist, I learned I could root almost anything, But there's different techniques for different types of material. If you're interested in propagating, artistic questions in terms of perspective, things you look for in when you style a tree, negative space and asymmetry versus symmetry. Like it used to be, bonsai was a lot of them would seem very symmetrical, and now the push, especially in our country, is to be more asymmetry. It gives it more energy to your design, and it makes it a little more exciting. Different things. Same as when you look at evaluate a painting or a piece of artwork. In terms of perspective and such. Some of these growing straight up. So. So, I'm not going to get this perfect, but I'm getting it significantly shorter. And even if some of these little spots die back or something, it'll grow enough to give me more to work with. But like I said, I'll have a follow-up, and you'll see when I do the next thing on this stuff. Every now and then I do a follow-up where I go through the yard. You might see it in that video. But eventually I'll do a follow-up specifically of this tree. Now this has 3. Oh, no, missed a little piece of wire. See, I pruned it more, now I can see easier. One more piece of wire to take off. So, I don't know if you're like me. I kind of like videos like this where you just kind of hang out with somebody while they work and talk about what they're doing with a tree. Some might find it boring. I know today the big thing is to be super exciting on your video and brief, and because people don't want, they say people don't have the attention span. But if you're a bonsai lover, you'll keep watch. It's different. This stuff's growing right on the inside. It's gonna come off. The bud's going there. We go. All right. Let's see here. I think I got that. There we go. All right. Back to anything else I need to prune. Stuff that's on the inside here. This stuff you can see, all this little tight stuff in here. Some of that's got to get cleaned out. It's coming out of the crotches between different branches in the trunk, and I don't need that there. Some of it I'll leave in case I decide to really cut back. If it really budged tight, like everywhere, like does this, but throughout the entire tree, then I might cut a lot of this branching all the way back close to the trunk, just so I can get those tight pads right near that. I might consider that, but it depends. The tree's going to tell me if I can do that. For now, I'm going to leave more and not do that. take this. Just there for now. All right. This is long. So, I'm not going to cut it farther back. I'm going to show you what I have done. Took some good amount off. It's not the time when I prune most of the tree. That's, like I said, that's usually late winter or early spring. But there's the front of the tree. You can see the tree a little better now. See? So it's got a lot of potential. And eventually I'll get these into tighter, thicker pads, and then I'll delineate the clear space, the negative space better. So you don't just see pads, but you see nice clear negative space that you imagine birds coming flying through, and but yet keep it a little bit loose around the foliage, a little bit of see-through, not too thick of pad, so it still retains a natural feel to it. All right, so thanks again. You guys take care. I'll talk to you later.